Happy Monday, Michael.
Happy Monday, Robbie.
You seem to be on a tight, firm, and structured schedule today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Doing some work, man.
You about to head out to the lab for 8 hours?
Stephen Pressfield says, do some work. Do the work.
I don't know who that is.
He wrote The War of Art. I speak to him a lot in terms of, he's the guy who kind of coined the term beating resistance in your life. Not caving into resistance, not letting little things distract you from the mission.
Ooh, I like this guy.
Yeah, he's good. He's got
What's his name again? Stephen Pressman?
Pressfield. He wrote...
Pressfield.
Yeah, he's written several books. One, my favorite was, The War of Art is the classic. It's about his journey into being a professional writer. And he always I think he's got a book called Turning Pro, too, which means not going to Kona as a 1 through 50 number, but professionally approaching your hobbies in a way that you want to make them real. So it's, in his case, he's a writer, so he goes to work, even though he works at home, every day. And, it's the same kind of stuff what we probably deal with. But it's like, he gets up, he has a schedule. He writes every day, regardless of what's going on from 8 to noon or something like that. But he talks about, resistance is going to shop for a new pair of bike shoes when you should be out riding. It's the little things that get in our way. I didn't anticipate this conversation going down this road, but it's all good stuff.
I like it.
I'm not going to the lab. I have been to the lab frequently lately, though, so that's a good sign.
Dude, me too.
Have you?
I think I'm gonna take a break this week.
Oh yeah, it's a little windy.
Yeah,
these days.
Well, it's gonna be a little cooler this week, but man, like last Thursday or Friday, I think it was. It beat me down. I peeled off after 2.5 hours and said, "I give in. You got me." It was. I had already gotten in 2.5 hours, but it was just like, man, you don't know the kind of good it does for you until you get out and ride somewhere else.
I was just going to say, for those of you who don't know or haven't picked up what the lab is, we're here in Nashville. It's an abandoned airfield. It's one of those smaller airports that they closed down for whatever reason, and it's now part of the city park system. It's a 1.25-mile loop, and one of the ways is the wind's at your back. Well, it can be a heavy crosswind too, but usually there's one time, it's behind your back on one straightaway and in your face hard on the other. And it's like serious wind out there. And we ride loops, and it's people talk about how boring it is, and it is, but it is a tenacious way to build your mental endurance, and especially because you're facing so much wind. I saw some of my rollerblading friends were getting knocked over out there the other day.
I'm telling you, man. Like this last week was like one of the first week where when I was doing interval work, the wind was so strong that I was running out of gears. With the tailwind, no lie.
Yeah,
and it wasn't because I was just like throwing down some like massive numbers. It was just like the tailwind was so. I think it was Thursday, and I was out there. It was just so fierce that when I got it was like, God, I like really have to work hard at keeping the speed. And it was crazy, man. Like, it was just really trying to throttle. I think I was doing like there were a few times where I think on my top speeds I was getting to be like in the 27, 28, 29 mile an hour range on the flat.
Yeah.
And that's just because looking at it now, I had 31.5 was the fastest I got on the flat. But that's because of the tailwind. But at the same could be said for when I was pushing I just pulled it up real quick because I thought it'd be interesting. Yeah. So the same could be said when I was pushing 290 watts in aero and only going 20 miles an hour.
Wow.
versus the other direction, where I was only having to put in, like, let's see. Yeah, I was having to put in like 210 watts to go 20 miles an hour. It's just crazy stuff. But yeah, it's
you're gonna have to go on.
You got to learn resilience out there. That's for sure.
You're gonna have to go on Slow Twitch and get you a creative gear set for the lab.
A creative gear set? Hey, listen, it is time to bump up the gears. I do need some bigger gears, but man, the lab, it's one of those. It'll teach you resistance, or it'll teach you to go home until you get more.
And speaking of going home, a lot of teams are going home with heartbreakers in this March Madness. We got to touch on this because it's so important to us. And can I go ahead and say something real quick? Sure. Sister Jean.
This isn't the Sister Jean. God bless her or rest her soul, whatever. And I've always thought this, and I'm sure people would disagree with me, and I don't really care. The winner of the NCAA basketball tournament is rarely the best team in the country.
Oh, I disagree.
100%. It is the winner. It is the person who was the best of the tournament. It is rarely, ever, always the best team in college basketball that year.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be argued.
Because if you say that it is, then basically the regular season's meaningless.
Well, is the person that wins Kona the best?
The best all-around triathlete?
Yeah.
Many would say no.
Yeah, I know. See, so I don't know how you.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, it's all. But yeah, it was I think it was a rough weekend for a lot of teams. But But that's what makes March Madness so awesome. I mean, as heartbreaking it was for my UT Vols to they were getting they didn't deserve it all to win that game. It was kind of a teaser there at the end for them to come back and get close. Which is kind of funny because they should have been feeding Grant Williams the ball all game in the paint, but they decided to launch threes all game, which is not our thing. And then lost on a brutal bounce from Loyola, and it was tough to watch. But good God, we're there. Michigan State, see ya. North Carolina, see ya. Xavier, bye.
Yeah.
And not to mention the 16 seed beating the 1, but it's just crazy. Sports is just, and the same goes for triathlon. You can devote so much time and energy as a athlete and even as fans, obviously, and then it can just be ripped away from you. It's like the world doesn't really give a shit if you think you deserve to advance or that you're the better team. It'll just rip your heart out, stomp on it, and wash it away with the hose.
It's rough, man.
It is.
I mean, we've all been there. I mean, nobody wins it every year, obviously, and it seems like every year somebody I know, me included, goes through a heart-wrenching loss. And I don't know, how I get so invested in it sometimes, but it is a weird thing. And it's exciting. CC and I went down there Friday and we watched at the Bridgestone here in Nashville. There was one of the regionals, and I don't know, to watch I got to say, watching the effort, we talk about effort a lot, and that's where I think that I can agree with you. I mean, we talk about what's the best team and all that sort of thing, but I think in a lot of ways this tournament does kind of tell you who's going to put the most effort out there, who has the resiliency and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you can't categorize that as the most talented. And I always argue that the most talented teams aren't always the best anyway. So it comes down to, how bad do you want it? And, and honestly, that's what triathlon comes down to too, So it's just interesting to see how how hard these kids go after it, man. Especially when you go there in person, you can just see the non-stop intensity. It's cool. And then, then who sticks to their game plan and who kind of goes, like you're saying, the Tennessee sort of went away from their. And why does that happen? It's like I know they were talking about that all week probably, and then it just started slipping away. And like I don't know, maybe the defense kind of cajoled them into doing something that they didn't, want to do. Those are the little things that I think nobody really pays attention to. It's sort of the biggest fear I have now is that we have a lot of Kentucky fans in here. I know that, and
yeah, Jesus,
their path has just been paved in gold with all these upsets. But
which means they're going to choke.
Yeah,
so
that actually would be the
in true Kentucky form.
Oh, that'll be the teaser. We'll just post that in there. We talk about Kentucky basketball in our closed Facebook group, which you can also become a part of. Search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook and send us a request. We'll get you in there. It's starting to really heat up with the season coming. People are getting more active. A lot of good conversation.
And also, in addition to, thank you to everyone who has taken the time to leave us iTunes reviews. We are increasing weekly, and we could not be more appreciative. Those of you that have listened and do listen and take the time to leave us a review, whatever your feedback is, it's always appreciated. And we always take it to heart and try to do the best we can to either make changes or just kind of keep doing what we're doing. Sometimes that's the hardest thing in life to do, is to not make changes. Because everybody in the world seems to be always trying to change things up and do this and do that, when sometimes you just got to keep doing what you're doing. So if you have listened to a few and haven't had the chance or don't know how, you can please go over to iTunes and give us a review. It helps people find us, and ultimately, and most importantly, it helps grow our honestly our really awesome community of athletes. That we've had a lot of people introduce themselves. And bring up some things in the closed group you mentioned, the Crushing Iron group on Facebook, and it really does. It's just you really can't ever have enough good support in life and in sports and everything. And so it's a great way to help expand the community that our listeners have built. And continue to grow that. So we appreciate that. And then you can always check out everything else that we do, swim camps, triathlon camps, visors and hats that also help to go support the podcast, in addition to our podcast pledge, which is really helpful in helping us take care of the costs that are incurred with the podcast that we do 2 times a week, and we'll continue to do so. And then you can also find additional info. We have swim analysis, we have instructional swim videos, and then also anything you need to know about coaching and training plans. So we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to a great rest of the year.
Yeah, and if you you say, if you've been in the group and you've been lurking a while, get in there and write us a little introduction and tell us what's on your mind and what your races you're doing and how you got in the sport, whatever. Little introduction.
Yeah. Because listen, nobody likes lurkers. It's to me. Let's be honest for a minute.
Oh, good.
The lurker to me is like the person who like always tries to pretend like they're not on Facebook a lot just because they don't like stuff.
Oh,
like there are tons of people who spend so much time on Facebook, but they don't want you to know, so they just don't like things. Because then you can tell that they're always on. So they're the scrollers, the scrollers, where we want to just scroll through. But yeah, I don't really get on Facebook that much. I'm like, dude, I see your alert thing that you're online 24 hours a day. Shut the hell up and just like something for a change. Don't be a lurker. Take something and give it to us and make a contribution. Don't be that Don't be that weird, dude.
Well, maybe they're just like Buddhist monks. They're just hanging back and observing.
I don't know about that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with observing.
I'm just trying to be,
Nothing wrong with observing, but I think everyone has a great story to tell, and everyone has, from an experience or a good question, has something positive to contribute.
Yeah, I agree. That got you a little bit fired up there, and can I get a little fired up about something real quick,
Yeah,
and
man.
then we can move on to the awesome topic that you picked for
Eventually.
today.
Yeah, or we'll just do it Thursday, whatever. But yeah, go ahead, go fire it up.
We have somehow not discussed the Wisconsin swim start change again,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
here's just so I can. Okay, they've gone from the mass start, which was just absolutely beautiful, and it was, challenging, and even my mother was disappointed when they changed it because she loved watching it so much, and it was just such a spectacle, and it was like, one of the few mass starts left. And then they went to a wave start last year, which I was there for and watched, and it was just kind of, I had a feeling that wasn't going to last because it just was so disjointed and kind of clunky. And now they've changed it to a rolling start in Madison, where everybody's going to kind of walk down. They're probably going to put a pier, a dock in, so you can jump off and do something. But I don't know, man. I started thinking about it. It's like, I think, that race used to sell out like in a day or a week or something like that. And then last year it kind of took to 3 or 4 months or something. And now last I looked, it was still open. And,
it's still open.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe is there some people that really enjoyed the mass start and are not interested as much because of that? I think that this is probably a result of people that that actually fill out the survey, getting all the attention, and a lot of people probably said that they would like to see a safer swim or a less congested swim or something like that. And I wonder if those people start taking the loud voices start taking over, whereas the people who really enjoyed it as it was aren't the ones that necessarily going to say anything because they think it's good.
Yeah, man, I love the mass start. I just think it's fun. I think it's a great spectacle, and it used to be like a badge of honor that people did, and I think what they're doing is trying to listen. The Wisconsin bike course, in my opinion, is the most difficult, if not the most difficult bike course in North America, with the hills and the how technical it is. So I think that they're trying to make it more appealing because registration is down. But I also know that on the flip side, a lot of people chose to, like you said, to do the race because they wanted to be a part of the mass start. Mm-hmm. So they wanted it to be almost more difficult. They liked that allure of, because listen, there are very different athletes out there. There are athletes who always cherry pick the easiest, flattest pancake courses all the time, 24/7. Then there are also the ones who pick a little bit of both. They pick, whatever fits their schedule the best, whatever, works out with the family. So they'll do hilly ones, they'll do flat ones. Then you have other ones who look for the most difficult ones to go. Like, I want to do that one, looks hard, let's do that, because they like to be pushed. And so I think all of it comes down to, honestly, it all comes down to advertising. Rolling Star making it more friendly, but listen, there are so many options. They all have rolling starts now. I mean, or they're self-seated. They all have that stuff. So it's just, I don't know. I hate it. And but it's the way they're going. Mm-hmm. It's not like they don't have enough room to do it. But it's about advertising, and it's about advertising it. And they say it's safer. I don't know that that's actually honestly true, but I think it's a safer bet for them to get more people to sign up. And I really do think that they are trying to lower the barrier of entry for athletes. But if you want to look at it in terms of like people being deterred on, because of safety, like we had mass starts. There were almost all races were mass starts when triathlon was at its highest participation, and it's been on the down ever since. So as we talked about change. Everybody thinks you always have to change and be react. So they've tried to react to the I think participation flatlined this past year, or was a little bit up, which is an improvement, and they think it's going to go up again this year. But so they, nobody wants to do it, so let's just make it easier.
Yeah.
And and like that's not always the answer. And I just think they are. Listen, I'm sure there are more people than not that listen to this podcast that are super stoked and super excited for that. Mm-hmm. I have a fear that it also really, really, really convinces people that they don't have to prepare as much.
Oh, exactly.
And I think that is a very huge mistake. That it's no longer the master. I'm not going to touch anybody. I don't really need to practice in the open water. I don't really need to do anything hard in the open water. It's just going to be easy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to end. That lends itself to
making it less safe.
Making it less safe, and then just a even worse experience. But it's all preparation. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's
well, I was just going to say we had Zach Showalter on here, and we had this little contest where I was going to do Wisconsin. I decided I would do it on the spot if we could get 500 retweets or whatever that was, and it wasn't that close, but I was still thinking about doing it. I was really I'm still kind of contemplating a race and thinking about the full this year and everything, and it cemented it when they went to the rolling start that I didn't want to do that one. I'll still be there, and I'll still be enjoying the experience. But I was thinking about it's like saying you want to like hike the jungle or something like that, and then telling the guides that you want them to kill all the snakes and fire ants before you go through the jungle. It's like or hiking Everest on a elliptical with virtual reality glasses or something. It's like, it's seriously.
Hey, I'm going to go hike the Appalachian Trail, but before I do, could you lay out AstroTurf from point A to point Z, and I'd like a water stop every, is it that dramatic? Probably not, but it is. I just don't like. I feel like it doesn't prepare. And listen, triathletes are famous for piss poor swim preparation. You're famous for it. Mm-hmm. We don't swim. You don't swim enough. You don't think it matters. What's it going to do? I'm just going to make it to the swim. And then you end up breaststroking or backstroking the first 5 feet when you get in the water.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Louisville, like 3 years ago. We jumped off the dock. I took 4 strokes and somebody was already on their back. Mm-hmm. Listen, nothing wrong with trying to make it through, or if it's something that you're going, I get it. It's tough. But you can't tell me that more times than not, you can't tell me that you really truly prepared for worst case scenario. You can't tell me that you totally prepared as much as you probably could have. And if you did, and that's your definition of preparation, maybe you should change the definition of it. But seriously,
no, I know.
It's like, funny I swam in my wetsuit in the pool for a 500, and it felt good.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
Yeah, guess what? That really doesn't matter at all. Period.
Yeah. Well, I think again, I can argue that the mass start is the best place for people with anxiety because they can just hang in the back. Or hang way to the side. If you get in the middle of a rolling start, you're going to have people coming by you all day. And that usually is where the anxiety comes, is when people are coming up from behind you and you're struggling and you just feel this onslaught that never seems to stop of people coming by, people behind you. They're behind you. You're just thinking about that stuff. And then you don't want to stop because you're going to get, beat up and run over. So you keep going and you can't get your breath, and then all of a sudden, you're treading water and you're getting punched. Yeah, not on purpose, but you know what I mean. It's like
I think that's a good poll we should run in our closed group.
Okay, we need more.
Would
polls.
you rather? Would you rather?
Go ahead, man.
Would you rather go into a race with a mass start and being able to pick where you begin and who's in front of you and who's behind you, or a wave start where faster athletes are going to be swimming over you?
I like that poll. That's good. We'll do it. I just kind of laughed because on my drive back from Houston, I was, my mind kind of wanders, and I had an idea for a new segment in the podcast that I was going to run by you, and it was called "Would You Rather." And one of the ones I wrote down was for you. I was going to ask, would you rather swim the Chattanooga Ironman race upstream or ride the bike loop twice?
Upstream swim.
But you get the gist of it. I was kind of.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't know if that's as fun as the.
It's whatever.
We used
fun
to play Would You Rather, and it was kind of a silly game, but.
Yeah, it is kind of a silly game.
Would you rather run?
I'm just kind of concerned that you were riding while you were driving.
No, voice to text.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, seriously. And it's amazing how good it works. Okay, one more. Would you rather run Louisville in Vibrams or run Florida in July? I don't know.
I'd go Florida in July.
I
think Vibrams are the dumbest thing in the world. I do. I think they're the most idiotic things in the world.
They're kind of fun.
Fun? What's fun?
They look fun.
What's fun about putting wearing a foot condom with tread?
Well, a quick story. My brother-in-law
about foot condoms with tread.
Well, sort of. My brother-in-law. We were talking about basketball earlier, but my brother-in-law said he knew a Nike rep at some point way back in the day, and he was in the track and field side of Nike. And what they used to do occasionally was, I guess, go to Kenya or something, and they would notify the locals that they were coming into town, and they were looking for potential college athletes for the track side of things. And one day he said, I don't know, 150 runners showed up, and they were going to have them run a marathon or something. And they half of them showed up in bare feet. It was out of all those people, the slowest time was 2:30 for the marathon. So it was just funny because the conversation was about how much potential money's involved in college basketball recruiting. Mm-hmm. And so here you are, the Nike people are going over to Kenya and recruiting. So what would happen is after they ran, they would kind of get them all together, whatever, get their names and stuff, and they start calling all the universities in the United States and say, "Hey, we got you an endurance runner." And so it was I don't know, man. It's but the point, I guess, was that they were just used to running barefoot, and then they had to put them in the Nike, and then who knows what's going on out there, man.
Yeah, who knows? None of our business.
None of our business, but money talks, brother.
Yeah, well, then that brings us back to the Wisconsin. They think that money's going to talk in the form of a rolling start.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be talking.
No,
you can probably still get a hotel on the finish line.
I bet you can. I bet you less people will, once they figure out, less people will come to watch.
Oh, that's the other thing. I think the locals used to be just so enamored with that. They'd all go out on their balconies.
If you've never been to the Wisconsin swim start, and the hoopla and the energy, it is without a shadow of a doubt the most unique swim start with energy of any race I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, so let's just take that energy right out of it.
Yeah, let's just yank it and then try and dish it out a little bit to the athletes, letting them know that we're going to roll them in like cattle over an hour just so they could, have a more pleasant experience. Anyway, that'll make the sport more spectator friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess that's the new moo. Nobody's going to turn and moo anymore. They're just going to as they roll those cattle into their start slower than molasses.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about that.
Here we go again, man.
I know, right? Here we go again.
And then, in all seriousness, though, talk about spreading it out. What are you going to do? You got kayaks. You're going to need twice the kayaks.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it's interesting. And I also heard that they were going back to the original
bike course.
Yep.
Now that I can buy.
Yeah, I can buy. I buy that. Yeah, I buy that. Would you rather original Wisconsin bike course or Wisconsin bike course 2.0?
Yeah. Well, I think the second one is harder actually, but
I would agree with you.
I think the first one was more. That was that's about fun. There was 3 really good hills where people lined up, and it was great. And now they only had really one that was.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get to experience that as an athlete.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's why I feel kind of sad in a way. Is like a lot of people will never get to experience that mass start. And frankly, like you said, I mean, badge of honor. That's a pretty good way to put it. I think I just felt really good about actually getting to do that. It was just something I thought about all year, and it was just like, wow. I mean, this is one of those things that you just can't forget. It was just quite an experience. But anyway, so you've got something else. How are the athletes doing? How are we got the season going here?
Season is going. Yeah, had bike races, run races, indoor tries. Had a duathlon over in the UK, but that got canceled due to weather.
Snow or something?
I think Steven did have some snow because I think he posted a picture of his run. I think they got a lot of snow. I don't really know what the weather's like everywhere else, but yeah, man, it's just weird, man. I always get like haven't been like kind of the off season and not that many. I think I've only had 2 weekends since we started in May where I haven't had anybody racing. And, 1 or 2 athletes is kind of, you get here and you get there. And it's just weird. Coaching is just a weird thing, especially during race season. And when you have a lot of athletes racing all the time, which is like, it's not going to stop, from here on out, I'll have somebody racing every single weekend, at least one, if not, 10 or 15 between now and November. So it's just kind of something I got to kind of reintroduce myself to. But just all the feelings of yes and no, and I don't even know what I'm doing, or you just second guess, or you don't, because you're not there and you can't see and you can't feel, and you're not like, you're just totally detached. It's just a weird feeling. But you got all the ups and downs, and no weekend is ever perfect. So, I mean, if in my opinion, if you're a coach, no weekend is ever perfect. You're always questioning things and, wondering if you did things right or if you can do things better, or, did you not do a good enough job, or, that's always the feeling you're going to have as a coach. You're happy and proud of your athletes. You want them to want them to have success and a good perspective. But, it's just, it's an awesome job, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it is, it's like watching the Final Four, or it's like watching March Madness every single weekend. You got the ups, you got the downs, you got the suspense, you got the exhilarating feelings, you get the not disappointing, because I'm never disappointed in my athletes, but you get disappointed because you feel like they are. Or things could have been different, or and so you get all those feelings every single weekend, all the time, and it's never. I don't want to say that I'm never satisfied, because I am, but you should never be like, yeah, see, we have everything going right all the time. It's just never that feeling. At least it shouldn't be, in my opinion. But yeah, the season's here, and I'll be racing soon, and I'm getting ready for that. But yeah, it's just yeah. Coaching is very much like March Madness, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament every single weekend.
Mm-hmm. And
is
just like March Madness, like most teams and most people aren't usually happy with their performance on some level.
well, I would disagree with you.
Okay.
Well, not totally, because I think there's a distinct difference in being happy with your performance, but not showing the same feeling for the result.
I agree, man. The quote I've been pondering.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the quote I've been pondering is right on that lines. It's like, you give it your best and you put everything you can into it and detach yourself from the outcome.
Yep. And I got thinking about this. I was kind of thinking about it already over the weekend about how, we were kind of texting back and forth on after the Vols lost. It was like just how heart-wrenching and like sports can be if you're actually in it, and doing it, and you think you can play your heart out. And then you get it just snatched from you, and you see these players like, they've spent 4 years of their bleeding, blood, sweat, and tears for their university, and and most of them have like no shot at playing anywhere ever again. And all of a sudden, they're thinking they get to spend another 4 or 5 days with their teammates, and that anything is possible. And in 2 seconds, their career is over.
Yeah, God.
I mean, it makes me like stomach hurt just like thinking about thinking about that. And I mean, it's like the equivalent of doing your biggest race of the year and being like a half mile from the finish. You can see it, and the fans are cheering, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, this is the greatest feeling ever." And then somebody yanks you off the course and says, "I'm sorry, you've been disqualified. You can never participate in triathlon ever again."
Yeah, can you imagine? Wow.
Oh my God, I don't know what I would do. But just how ruthless it is, in that kind of a sport. Gosh, God, that feeling would blow. But then this is the time of year where if you're listening to this podcast, you more than likely have a lot of friends who are also triathletes. So everybody else is racing. And this is also the time of year where everyone talks about their race results. And yesterday I probably saw 7 to 10 on my Facebook feed that when they want to talk about their race, they started with, "It wasn't what I had hoped for, but whatever it is."
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and you'll see it for the rest of the year. And sometimes you see it with athletes, and that's the only thing they ever say. "Well, it wasn't the race I had hoped for, but So, I don't think that's the way you should look at it, anything ever. But I just wanted to kind of put into context, and we can go from here. A text exchange I had with an athlete of mine, and I said, "Can I give you a tip this morning?" And he said, "Sure." I asked him a question. I said, "How different is your life now than what you had once thought it would look like when you were in high school or even college?" And he said, "Oh, it's very, very different. Very, very good, but very different." And I said, "So back then you were hoping for a very different life, but now it's still everything you would truly hope for." And he said, "Yes, very different from what I had imagined, but would not want to trade it in any way for anything else. And the path here, though not easy, made me what I am today, so I would not want to change that either. There are things that I would like to improve, like my weight and my fitness, but those are bonuses. If they did not change, I would still consider myself very, very lucky." And I said, that is exactly what happens when you register for a race and then you train and race. Don't ever finish a race thinking, "Well, that wasn't what I was hoping for." It devalues your effort and everything that you did and went through leading up to a race. Don't disrespect yourself and your effort. Training, just like life, will never, ever, ever, ever be ideal. Ever. Be proud of how hard you worked to get to be at that race and put in the effort that you did and to compete like you did. That's racing with self-respect. Because every time that we tell ourselves we finish a race and we do something most people probably think is incredible. And I'm not here to say that you shouldn't have goals and you shouldn't have, goals to achieve in races. But if you went out and you feel like you did give it your all in training and you were consistent, and then you raced and you feel like I left it all out there, that is everything that you should hope for.
Yeah.
But when the first thing that you say before you talk about this incredible thing that you did is, well, it wasn't what I had hoped for, but you discount in my opinion, you discount everything afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't good enough. So when is it going to be good enough? I'm not a huge, there was a quote that I don't remember who said it, but that I always loved, and I think you have to have hope if you're in like a super dire situation. But at some points in life and in everything, I believe hope is paralyzing because it's all you cling to. You don't cling to action or just finally getting up and doing things differently. And I just hope things will get better. We'll go out and make them better. I just hope that I'll be able to do this. That's not action. It's like it's imaginary sometimes. You're just waiting for life to kind of luck its way through and dish out some more hope. I just hope things will change. I just hope things will get better. Well, if you're not doing anything to make them get better or do anything actively and putting your, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. We all have those friends who they always complain all the time, 24/7 about problems and everything's but they have never offered up one solution to how to make things better. When you go out and race and you can walk up to the start line, you can say, you know what, today they have one thing that I can control and everything else is going to be blah. It's going to be what it is. But if I gave it my all, then that should be exactly what you would hope for. Because where do we get our hopes from anyway?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think about hope in a way too, though, that I feel like hope is in the mess. So that's kind of what drives me in a weird way. And I hear what you're saying, though. I think that's exactly right. You have to, I don't sit back passively and hope. I look for, because in every dire situation, there is an answer, or at least I believe there is, and that to me, it gives me hope. You know what I mean? So I keep diving in and trying to figure things out, and I don't give up. And maybe that's two different things, but just sitting back and kind of passively hoping that something will change is no answer. That's no solution for sure. But yeah, I don't know.
You don't know? I thought you were gonna have a huge answer for this.
No, keep going. I'll think of something.
No. I would just. I mean, it doesn't have to be some huge long discussion. I just urge you as an athlete to, if you're listening, to just not have that mentality. It wasn't everything that I hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I gave my best effort today, and because you rarely ever see this. Athlete goes out, doesn't really race that well. It doesn't really get a good time, what the time they had hoped for, but they win their age group. Mm-hmm. What do you see?
Yeah.
Won my age group, totally stoked. # try podium for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then but on the flip side, athlete goes out, executes, races out of their mind, nails their, whatever hope and, hope, and it's, well, I didn't really place where I wanted to, or I thought I would end up doing better, or, it's always, we talked about this before on many a podcasts, the buts and the this and the that, and all that stuff should be washed away in training. All of it should. Your perspective when you line up should be, you know what? I'm going to give the best that I can, and then whatever happens, happens. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to look back and say, you know what? This is what the day gave me. I gave everything that I had to offer, and I'm happy with my effort, and I'm happy with how hard I worked to get to where I was today.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I had the same conversation with the same athlete like a week ago. I said, when you sign up for a race, you picture your result matching the life you have ideally and perfectly the moment you click registration.
Yeah, that's it. That's good.
But if I had told you, okay, yes, that sounds like a reasonable expectation. But if I could have told you that there would be total upheaval and sickness and injury and all these kind of things, would you still look at that and say, yeah, I can still do that? No. You would be objective. Or if you looked at these two different life scenarios and you named them two different people, person A and person B. Person A is perfect life, and then you with the expectation of a goal that was this, and then person B had, got the flu and was out for 3 weeks, had an injury, was out for 2 weeks, was going through major job fluctuation that was so stressful they were losing sleep for over a month. Which one do you think? Would you change the result? Yeah, because this person's got a lot going on. Okay, well, you pull back the tab, and oh my God, it's you. But we get so attached to these arbitrary, and we've talked about this again on many podcasts. Like, we pull these numbers out of our ass, and then we hold on to them, and they're like, treasure them for dear life up until the race, and almost never change or waver, even though every part of our life has basically changed, leading up to the event. And then to do it and still have, listen, the athlete that overcomes, all these obstacles and can make things work out of this and this and this, and has a little bit of a slower time than a person whose life has been so much less stressful. On our side, everybody has their own stresses, but, has been, a little bit easier to an extent. Who should be happier? Well, they should both be happy, but if you had to put them in the same room, one would say, yeah, but it wasn't really what I had hoped for. Well, stop hoping with someone else's life, or stop hoping with someone else's reality, or stop hoping with someone else's ability. Be realistic. There's nothing wrong with shooting for the stars, or whatever you want to say, going for the moon, whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But you rob yourself daily, and then at every race, which should be a celebration of what you've done, you totally diminish it.
Yeah, you do.
And it's not fair to you. And I know, and I see people who it just takes a toll on them 24/7, because you see it in their training. You see this because they just get because what it leaves for you, the only thing left it leaves for you is training.
Yeah, and that's not cool, right?
Well, no, I mean, because you.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, you should want to go race, and you should want to perform, and you should want to compete, and you should want to, be a part of such an amazing experience. But if you get done with it, and you're like, yeah, but it just wasn't what I had hoped for.
Yeah.
I ask you, challenge yourself or challenge your friend. Well, tell me what you had hoped for instead, and tell me why. And then tell me why it wasn't good enough. Like, I read a really great article yesterday, and it was actually called "No, You're Not Entitled to Your Opinion." It was saying that we rarely ever challenge people to think anymore. We're too afraid to get in arguments, and listen, in the day and age we live in, with religion and politics being such like huge topics, people get in. That's okay. You're just entitled. You're just entitled to your opinion. No, you're only entitled to what you can actually intelligently argue for. That's actually what you're entitled to.
Interesting. And
it was a really, really great article. But And well, basically just said the problem with the "I'm entitled to my opinion" is that all too often it used sheltered beliefs that should have been abandoned a long, long time ago. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. But in terms of like, challenge yourself. Like, okay, well, why did you even hope that? Nothing wrong. And just what made you think and hope? So if it wasn't a realistic hope or it wasn't a realistic expectation, then why is it the first thing out of your mouth of why you didn't have the race you wanted to? Because that was a race you couldn't have had. So why are you even training? Because we all do it. I've done it before. I mean, listen, many of the, I would say almost all of the life lessons or the things that we talk about on this podcast are all things that both you and I have done repeatedly.
Yeah.
And the reason we have
let's make no mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is like the reason that you and I, talk so much about all this stuff is because we've gone through it and we've been there. And the point for us is like, just because we went there and we went through it doesn't mean you have to too.
Right.
If we can share our experiences and how horrible it was for us, then we're not necessarily horrible, but how negative or unproductive it was or unhealthy it was for us. If we can share that part of it for you, then maybe you won't have to go that route. So don't get me wrong. Believe me, I spent years and years in it wasn't the race I had hoped for category. That was me.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back on it, it's like, then why did I ever race? Because I would never live up to the unrealistic hope of wherever I pulled it out of my butt. Because now looking back on it sometimes, I'm like, oh, that was hysterical. I must have been insane to even think that was even a reality based on where I was going,
mm-hmm.
Or where I was like, what the hell was wrong with me that day that I thought that was even possible? And now just to kind of go along with things, is it okay to be disappointed? Absolutely. But to preface everything that you do in every race with, it wasn't what I had hoped for. It's funny because we rarely ever go out and train and say, yeah, that wasn't really what I had hoped for today. Yeah. You just go out and you do it. And that's also why a lot of people love training more and then they don't even like to race, is because it doesn't have that hope and expectation and pressure and downfall that is racing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking about the University of Virginia lost to a 16 seed. It was the first time that's ever happened in the tournament, and I was thinking to myself, wow, what are these kids dealing with? They're, sort of this humiliation vibe all over the country, and they're embarrassed, I'm sure. At least that's the reaction that everyone has. They must just be, how are they ever going to get up and go to class and everything? And I was thinking about, I wonder if there's some of the, some guys on that team, might actually get up and be like, let's just move on. They go to class on Monday and they're not devastated, and they didn't have that, like you're saying. I think that needs to be crystallized. It's, this idea of detaching yourself from the outcome, because you hear people say, one game at a time, and it's this quarter, and, this 5 minutes, and there's 4 minutes, and we just play the game that way, and that's how it is. And you go into these situations, and if you have humility from the start, reality, humility, being in touch, then you don't have the humiliation at the end as much. You know what I mean? It's like if these guys were literally like respecting their opponents equally to them, respecting the race, whatever the case may be, and knowing that things are out of your control, the outcome's out of your control, and you're detached from the outcome, that makes whatever happens so much easier. Even if it's one of these things where you didn't train and had a great race for some reason, that happens too, and not allowing yourself to attach to that outcome, because if you're not going to always get away with that. It was just what it was. So I'm fascinated with that concept right now of detaching from the outcome, because you only control what you can do. And if you train 364 days and then race one day and it doesn't go your way, you can't let that be your define you, you know? And
It's all, and yeah, we talk about effort all the time, yada yada yada, but it's true. I mean, like just even in day-to-day life.
well, I was going to say that's just such a bigger concept than racing.
Like day-to-day life, you can wake up and think, I'm going to crush today. I've got these lists of things. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and this. And then one thing gets a hiccup. One thing happens, and you're like, oh, this day's all gone to hell. And then you wake up the next day and you feel like a big fat, lazy person doesn't want to get anything done. And you do a few things. You're like, dude, I crushed today.
Yeah.
And nothing really happened. It is. It's just also such a huge reminder of how we have like so little control over things, and I remind athletes all the time when they race in that, your best day, will it be perfect to have it on race day? Absolutely. But it is all about the effort and in the perspective and what you do, because a lot more oftentimes than not, like just because you pour everything into it doesn't mean it's going to be a mirror image in the result. Life has its way of putting a crack in the mirror and then returning an image that isn't exactly the way that you thought it would reflect back on you. But it doesn't change the person looking at it. It just changed the image of what you're actually looking at is what it should be. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we just, I guess I should. I'm just not happy with it. When if you just took that away, everybody can see you and how much effort you put in and all the hard work you put in. And honestly, that's what amazes people the most. To me, that's what. Yeah. Do people who race well? Do I feel like some things that they've what they race? Do they race great? Yeah. I respect the hell out of people who have great races, but I respect more the work that they did to get there, or the athletes who never ever ever give up, or who always make it through, who always or sometimes seemingly going through hell and still manage to stay focused and stay committed and make it out and get their workouts in. To me, that's so much more respectable and something that I admire much greater than what any race result will ever tell you. Because, yeah, is racing important? Does it show things? Absolutely. But it only shows a small portion of what it actually took you to get there. It's just a clock. It's just a number. And is it important? And are there ways you can monitor progress and you want to see how much better you've gotten? Sure. But don't forget, everything that went into the preparation. And I think we all know. We know plenty of athletes who are never happy with their races and also poo-poo everything and are just always negative. But we all also know the athlete who we look at and think, I have no earthly idea how they do it all.
It's true. Yeah.
I've got more athletes than I can count that I look at their life and think, how the hell do you get this shit done? And it makes their result when they race have so much more of a different perspective. Like, is it important to race well? Sure. And I don't have to say that anymore, but you look at like how you got there and the effort they took to stay committed. You're just like, dude, like, I'm just incredibly impressed. And then if you can put it all together and you can have a great race day and put it all in, and then that's the perfect day, where your effort and your commitment and your, overcoming obstacles all comes to an end and it comes to this big reward. But just because your time doesn't look the way you might want it to be, doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel like there's a huge reward at the end of every race at the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And I would urge everyone as they go into the real meat of the season to to look at it, and when they finish, be happy and smile and think, man, like I gave it I gave it hell today, and it felt good. And if there's one thing I can be happy about, it's that I raced hard today. I gave it everything I had, and I did the best I could leading up to this race. And those are the only things those are my controllables. Everything else is what it is.
Yep. Everything else is what it is, and that's my favorite saying. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay. Well, if you want to find out more about us, go to crushingiron.com. Join our closed Facebook group. Search Crushing Iron Group. We'll let you in there. Meet some people. Share some stories. Read some stories.
Yeah, I did a quick poll while we were actually here on the podcast.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I did a three-part poll. I did rolling start, where I can pick my place. Mass start, where I can pick where I start. Wave start, picked by the RD, likely to have faster age groupers behind you. Right now, rolling start is in the lead with 36 votes, followed by mass start, which has 9 votes, and no one has picked wave start.
There we go.
What I did also fail to edit, or not edit, but add to the description was one of the main reasons that I hate the rolling start is because you're not racing somebody neck and neck. You have no idea if someone started ahead of you or behind you or with you, because you could be passing somebody on the run and think, oh yeah, I'm beating them, but what if they also started 30 minutes behind me in the swim? Or what if they only started 20 minutes ahead of me on the run? The mass start is you all start at the same time, so every person you pass, you're beating.
Mm-hmm.
No questions, no math, no nothing. You're just beating. I'm ahead of you, I'm beating you. Whether that's rolling start, it's, gosh, I started in the sub 1 hour wave at Louisville, and you're on the bike, and you're passing me, or were we in the same wave? Were you, God forbid, 15 minutes behind me and you're already passing me? Well, now I'm 20 minutes behind you before you even hit the run. You just never know, and I hate that feeling. But anyway, we'll hit that again. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
And your finisher picture shows the right time.
Yeah, for real.
So you don't have to say that picture. Oh, you
seriously.
did 13:47. No. I started.
Yeah. Seriously. Talk about the time I didn't hope for.
Yeah, right. And
Yep.
One quick thought on hope is, like, if you've got that this certain number or certain outcome cemented in your brain and you don't hit it, then you have to, I think that's kind of where sometimes, like, this whole Ironman depression concept that we've talked about before can rear its head. Is it's that was the hope, that was what you put all your eggs in that basket for, and now you have to sort of depress those thoughts because you can't do anything to answer it.
Yep.
Anyway, Crushing Iron Coaching, check it out. We have a coaching tab at crushingiron.com, and as Robbie mentioned earlier, we have a pledge tab if you want to shoot a little money at the podcast to help keep it going twice a week, 52 weeks, twice a week. You know what I'm saying.
Twice a week, all right? Twice a week. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, twice a week. And it's out there.
It's out there. Go consume it.
We have no expectations.
That's right. We have zero expectations.
So if nobody gives a dime, we don't care.
Yeah.
And if we get 10 grand today,
hey,
we don't.
Well, I'd probably care.
We care.
I'd probably care a little bit.
We're working on it. We're not perfect. All right, man. This has been
dude,
a fun time as usual, and thanks for listening to the Crushing Iron podcast.
All right, see you, dude.